First, we're going to start with the carburetor and taking the throttle linkage off the top. Carburetor.
You point to it.
Carburetor, and this is the carburetor bowl.
And this is the studs on the motor.
There's your throttle linkage. Controls your gas. If you want to, you can work on that.
You take the big bolt.
No, do the around. Just a couple around.
Cameron, what are you pulling apart?
This is the
Rest of the throttle linkage.
rest of the throttle linkage.
And I will be taking off the gearbox.
This is also from the throttle linkage where it holds between this.
So what are you doing?
This is still the gearbox. This is off the side of the engine. Just for this goes right to a gear, which is driven to the car.
Okay.
We do have to check this. That's why I did not check that.
It has what?
Might have oil on it. Yeah.
Great. Do you want me to get a tissue or something?
No, I have a bottle.
Okay.
We also have towels.
Oh, towels.
Yeah, I got plenty of towels. Okay, you want to hold it? All right, we're gonna flip. I'm gonna flip this up real quick. Doing that, make sure the oil doesn't spill out.
Okay.
Take this cover off.
And it is sealed, right?
Yeah.
So you'll have to. There's a little bit of oil. Ooh.
Yep.
That's a lot of oil.
Yep. You want to soak it up or you want to just...
There's your gearbox gear.
Okay. What does that do?
This connects right from the motor, and at this shaft here, that's the main crankshaft of the motor. Drives here, drives to the gearbox or through the gearbox.
Okay.
This is the gearbox gasket. It keeps all the oil inside the gearbox instead of having a leak.
Get a towel ready. When I pull this off, you're gonna have to fix that, or you might have to. I don't know. Nope, we're good.
And now what is that?
That is the crankshaft. So that is the center of the motor. That is the biggest part of the motor, the fundamental part. Taking the valve cover off. This will show the valves. This is what lets air in and exhaust out.
I am trying to get this flywheel cover off.
What is a flywheel?
The flywheel keeps rotating even when you get off the gas, so the motor doesn't overall stop. It keeps the motor rotating.
And this is also what that shaft is also connected to. The shaft is connected to the flywheel.
To the
flywheel.
It also acts as a balance for the motor. Shortly, you'll see why I say that. Valve cover. That hole there is a breather. If the if the head does not have enough air, it stops up, creates pressure, and shoots oil out.
And leverage on this.
So gasket goes on to make sure that all the air that's going through is directed through that hole, nowhere else except for that hole.
Okay.
And this is the flywheel cover.
Woohoo.
There's a spacer that goes between the carburetor and the head of the engine.
Okay.
Just taking a heat cover off.
What does a heat cover do?
Heat cover keeps all the heat in the engine. So these engines typically run pretty cool. Without a heat cover, the engine will never stay hot, and anything next to the motor will get hot. Just a piece of aluminum bent up.
Cool.
We'll head off next.
What is that?
What? Oh, that is just a cover. This is where the exhaust will go.
Okay.
That's the exhaust port. So this is the head of the motor.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second most important. This is where everything moves and happens. So over here, your valve springs, your valves. This valve controls the air that comes into the motor. This valve is the exhaust. So air goes in, combust, comes out.
Nice.
So these will go up and down while the motor's running.
Okay.
There's a one.
This is the head. In the head, you will find steel valves. The valves are what lets the exhaust out and the air in. These valves will be up and down at any given time based off the cam. The valves are hard metal. They ride directly based off the push rods, which ride directly based off the cam, which is timed to the crankshaft, as you can see here with the push rod sticking out.
Here's your piston, the top of your piston. So that's your combustion chamber. All your explosions happen right on top of that piston.
Okay.
The reason it's black is because carbon buildup, something that commonly happens with motors, carbon buildup from the products of that explosion.
This is the cylinder. This is where the piston rides up and down. It guides the piston and creates a seat between the piston and the rings. On the right here, we have the flywheel. The flywheel is weighted. The flywheel being weighted changes how the motor reacts. The heavier the flywheel, the more the motor will turn. As you, if you lift off the gas, it'll keep spinning. If it's lighter, it'll slow down quicker. This is the coil, the black box. As the flywheel spins, the magnet on the flywheel makes contact with the coil, which creates a spark. The spark then goes to the wire, which goes to the spark plug, making a spark in the piston, or above the piston.
So what is this now?
So this is the inside of the motor.
This is the cam. On the cam, there's two lobes. The lobes are where the push rods ride. The push rods are what controls the valves. So the gear on the cam directly connects to the crank. Based off that is when your valves will go up and down.
And this is your crankshaft. This is your pretty much everything. This is control. This is the heart of your motor.
These are your push rod guides. These ride directly on the cam, so the push rod has nowhere to go but to ride directly on them.
This is the cap, or rod cap.
What does it do?
So this little spike, when it rotates, it touches the oil and splashes oil up here. So there is no oil pump on this motor, like a normal car would. This is your oil pump. It hits the oil down here. Every time it comes down, splashes it up, puts it all over everything else. Now,
this is the piston rings and rod. On the top of the piston is carbon buildup, like we were talking about before. This carbon buildup is a byproduct of the explosions that happen between gas and air and spark. As you can see, there's a little bit of buildup that is rough to the texture. So these here are the rings. The rings are what seals the piston to the cylinder. If the rings do not seal right, you will have oil that comes up to the head, or you burn oil out the pipe, which is all bad. If you ever see a car with blue smoke, that is often oil burning, which is not good for the motor. This is the rod. This is where the piston connects to the crankshaft. The rod is connected to the piston with a pin. As you can see the pin on the inside, it has a pin and then 2 clips on the side to hold it in, and that's the entire assembly. All that's left now is to clean the motor up and prepare to put it back together, as you will see in the next part.